Hello everyone and welcome back to my Warhammer 40k guides. I am Brady and today I would like to talk to you about the new news that we were given on the Warhammer community website about the new Space Marine releases. So yeah, we got some new models, we got some new rules, and it looks like Space Marines definitely got a buff, and in turn Chaos Space Marines also got a buff as well. So let me scroll down to it and we'll get into it, because right now on this same page they talk about Apocalypse and how they had like a mega battle and stuff, which actually looks really cool. But yeah, we're here to talk about the Space Marines. So, the Space Marines, the Emperor's Avenging Angels of Death, are undeniably the most iconic faction in Warhammer 40k. Their imagery as integral to the universe as the Imperial Aquila, and we're about to enter a golden new age for the Adeptus Astartes. Basically, to break it down, they updated a couple of character models to be Primaris now, so they got the Marnius Calgar treatment, they're now Primaris. So we have Chief Librarian Tigris, and the Chapter Master for White Scars, which this one's kind of weird for me, because White Scars, at least as far as I know, isn't all that popular. I was kind of hoping that Pedro Cantor got a Primaris update, but hopefully he did, and they just didn't mention it. But yeah, so these two characters, at least these two, I don't know if there's any more, but at least these two characters did get Primaris models, and I think it was long overdue. It was kind of funny seeing like full Primaris lists with like a tiny Tigurius in them and stuff like that. And I've seen people convert regular librarians into Tigurius because, yeah, it just looked better. The Primaris models are just, they're so much better. They're better proportioned, and they just look amazing compared to the little tiny Marines that have like weird proportions and their arms are all like shrunk and stuff. But yeah, so continuing on, there's now a new Walker or Dreadnought or something that Space Marines are getting, and it just looks like a regular Space Marine baby carrier. So apparently this thing is like a scout, and it can actually scout move from what I was reading, so that's going to be interesting. Which means either it's going to be able to deep strike, or it's going to be deployed outside of the deployment zone 9 inches away from enemy models. If that's the case, this is going to be pretty interesting to see. I kind of like too how they have like the fist, but the fist can hold a bolter and shoot it at the same time. That's really cool. I like that. This model looks pretty good overall. Until I see its actual rules and its points cost though, I can't really say if I think it'll be viable on the tabletop. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. That's all I can really say right now. Space Marines are getting a new transport called the Impulsor, which is like the Repulsor, except it has less guns, and I assume will have more transport capacity, or it'll move faster or something like that. So I think Space Marines really needed this right now, because the Repulsor is kind of expensive to use as just like a transport, to be able to get your intercessors up the board, to get them to go punch stuff in the face because they're Indominus Crusaders and they're decent in close combat. And foot slogging them kind of sucks, because then you have to, on some turns, choose to either advance and forego your shooting, or just shoot and almost never get into close combat. But with these new dedicated transports, we may actually see Space Marines and transports again, because you're not going to be paying like a million points just because your transport happens to have a million guns on it at the same time. So now this is going to be a more, I assume, a cheaper transport that is going to be more accessible to Primaris armies, that will allow you to transport your Primaris intercessors up the board so they can go start punching stuff to death. And speaking of punching stuff to death, there's a new rule that Space Marines are going to be getting that is called Shock Assault. If this unit makes a charge move, is charged, or performs a heroic intervention, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the models in that unit until the end of the turn. So what this means is Primaris get extra attacks now when they charge, get charged, or perform a heroic intervention. So I made a little list, and off the top of my head, immediately the units that get buffed by this are Smash Captains, because they already have a decent amount of attacks, they hit pretty hard, but with this extra attack going on top of it, especially in like Blood Angels, oh my god, that's a lot of attacks that you're going to be able to just smash stuff with. Intercessors got buffed by this as well, because the Indominus Crusader formation gives them an extra attack, so they're at 3 attacks base. With this, they'll have 4 attacks base, and if they're in Crimson Fists, you'll have Primaris Intercessors with 5 attacks. That's kind of nuts. That's more than some regular characters get in the regular game. So yeah, Primaris Intercessors are going to be pretty nutty, especially with that new transport now, so you can actually get them into close combat to use them against armies that aren't running at your face. Terminators get a decent buff, although Terminators are still kind of weird because most Terminators don't have a way to reliably get into combat other than like Deep Strike. Sure, you can put them in like a Land Raider and stuff, but those are still kind of expensive for what they do. It's like the repulsor problem, essentially. You're paying a ton of money for a bunch of guns just to transport a few units. And then if you do Deep Strike the Terminators, if they fail their charge, they're probably never getting into combat because they're so slow, they're just never going to get there. So either way, it is still a buff to Terminators, although I still don't think Terminators are that good. Anything Blood Angels benefits from this really hard. Blood Angels got a massive buff from this. You can use this on your Death Company, on your Sanguinary Guard, on your Smash Captains, on your Librarian Dreadnought, on anything Blood Angels is gonna now just get that extra attack in there, which is sometimes all you need to get the job done, especially on stuff like Death Company, a 10-15 man squad of Death Company, all with an extra attack. Now I believe that puts them at like what, 5 attacks each now or something dumb like that. That's pretty nuts. So yeah, Blood Angels got a buff as well. They also say underneath that Heretic Astartes will be benefiting from this as well. So because of that, Blightlord Terminators got a buff. Scarab Occult Terminators got a buff. I assume if it goes on them, Demon Princes will also get a buff if this affects Demon Princes as well. I assume it would, but again, we'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, any Chaos or regular Space Marine character gets an extra attack as well. And sometimes those characters come with really good weapons, so that extra attack is, honestly, it's really helpful. So with this change, though, do I think that Space Marines are suddenly going to become viable? Probably. But not necessarily because this one change. It's because we're also getting a bunch of Codex Supplements. So because they even say here that some of the Blood Angels factions, they don't play like each other. So for example, Black Templar play very differently from Ultramarines, who play very differently from Blood Ravens, and so on and so forth. So we're actually getting a bunch of Codex Supplements for it says redacted right here, so we don't know which chapters are actually getting them, but we're gonna get some chapter supplements so we can play the regular Space Marine armies in the ways they were meant to be played, and they're going to have their own stratagems, they're going to have their own rules, they're going to have, I assume, probably their own units. So yeah, that should be really interesting, and hopefully that's enough to bring Space Marines in line, because one of the problems with Space Marines is they were kind of paying the Guilliman tax. Because all of the Space Marines, other than like Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Blood Angels, who have their own codex, all of the Space Marine chapters from the Space Marine Codex suffered from the Guilliman tax because all the Space Marines had to be balanced around Guilliman, because Guilliman could buff up all the Space Marines and do some really cool things with them. So other chapters kind of suffered from this as well, because some of their units that shouldn't be as expensive as they are were as expensive as they are because Guilliman essentially had that tax. They had to be that expensive in case they were played in Ultramarines. With these books, though, one thing we should see for sure is different rules that actually makes those units worth it in other chapters other than Ultramarines. So because of this, based off of the rules we're going to get, or assuming we're going to get some really cool rules, I think that Ultramarines might not be the most popular chapter anymore, or they might still be the most popular chapter, but there might be some hidden gems in some of these. Maybe Black Templar are suddenly going to be good. Maybe Blood Ravens will be good. Maybe Crimson Fists will be good. What I'm trying to say is if we get the right rules in all these books, then we have chances of seeing Space Marines that aren't colored blue with the Ultramarine symbols. Another thing too that they mentioned is that all the units that were from the new box set, the Shadowspear box set, are all going to get their own individual releases. So you no longer will have to buy the Shadowspear box. You can actually just buy like these units of Infiltrators and units of Eliminators and stuff like that. You can buy them by themselves and you don't have to buy the Shadowspear box anymore. And that's awesome. I knew they would do that eventually. They've done that with like every box set. But yeah, that's pretty cool that we can now go out and buy these things. And because, yeah, they're actually pretty good units. Speaking of which, I forgot to mention, we're actually getting an updated Space Marine Codex, kind of like the Chaos Space Marine Codex. So yeah, we're going to have all of these new stuff that's been added in, like all the FAQs, everything else, probably some points adjustments and other things. It'll all be in the new updated Space Marine Codex, which is awesome. I think we all knew it was coming because of the updated Chaos Space Marine Codex, and I think from here on out, Games Workshop is probably going to start updating a bunch of the older codexes, since they've pretty much released every army in existence now, except for like Sisters of Battle, which will be released by the end of the year, so that's pretty cool. And the last thing before I give my final thoughts on this is that they're actually implementing a way to create your your own successor chapter. So you'll be able to have tactics that you can pick from and stuff like that. Maybe you'll even be able to pick different stratagems and relics and stuff that you can use. I don't know what the rules are actually going to be because I can't see them yet, but I assume they're going to be pretty good, and it's going to be a cool way that if you want to make your own chapter, you'll be able to actually do it instead of just pretending, like, instead of playing Ultramarine rules and just pretending it's a different faction. Now you'll literally be able to make a new faction, which I'm all for, because you guys know me and my Red Legion and my custom armies and stuff like that. I would love to be able to make custom rules that work with my chapter or with my custom warband. Although that is Chaos, so it's not really going to work with this, but I mean, I would have liked it for Chaos too, but yeah, we get, it's still pretty cool though, so yeah, we can make our own chapters and new Space Marine Codex. So I'm actually really looking forward to this, because I finally settled on which chapter I want to play, and I'm going to be playing Crimson Fists. So hopefully Crimson Fists get their own supplement as well. I'm really hoping for that, because that would be awesome, and I would love to play my Crimson Fists. But yeah, all these updates just made me even more excited to get started on my Crimson Fist army, so I can't wait to get that all built and painted up and actually play with it. But yeah, overall, this looks like a nice little update. And depending on the rules we get in those supplements, Space Marines might end up going up a tier in the tier list and might be stronger. Because I can't see them going down a tier, so there's only up from here in my opinion. So I think Space Marines are... If you're a Space Marine player, you should be happy right now, because yeah, you're going to be getting some cool new toys. And for all we know, there might even be other units. Like I said, there might be other characters. Like, hopefully, please update Pedro Cantor. Please, please just do it. And maybe we're gonna get some other characters updated. Maybe we're gonna get some other units too, kind of like this. Because if you think about, oh, they also mentioned it. I didn't say it, but we're getting an updated Space Marine Codex, kind of like how we got an updated Chaos Space Marine Codex. So I assume, like the updated Chaos Space Marine Codex, there's just gonna be a bunch of units that we don't know about and they're not teasing, that are just gonna show up randomly. I assume, I could be wrong, but yeah, that would be pretty cool if they just, a bunch of new units come out. So yeah, I'm actually really excited about this. I can't wait to start to play my Space Marine list, or even the little buffs that it gives to my Chaos Space Marines as well. That's pretty cool. I like it. But yeah, I can't really say too much about it until we get the rules in our hands. So as for a release date for this stuff, I don't believe they've given one. So we're just gonna have to wait and see when they decide to bring it out. This is just letting us know what is coming out in the future. But as far as I'm aware, from what I've read, and although admittedly I skimmed through it pretty quick, so I might have missed it, I don't think we actually have a release date or like a pre-release date for pre-orders and stuff like that. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. But again, overall, very excited for this release. I hope you guys are too. And yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, what you're looking forward to the most, what you're hoping that they do with Space Marines, if there's any more changes. I'd love to read all of your thoughts and see what you guys are thinking about this. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Warhammer 40k content, and I will see you in the next video. Happy wargaming.